Aloha and good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here on This Is Now. First at noon today, operations at Hilo's Airport came to a halt today after a shocking discovery in the TSA security line.
That's right. 2 items resembling grenades were detected during the X-ray screening of a carry-on bag belonging to a male Japanese national who was leaving the country. The call came in at around 5:45 this morning. Officers secured and evacuated the terminal area as a precaution while the bomb squad investigated. Authorities determined the items were inert grenades. 41-year-old Akito Fukushima of Kanazawa, Japan was arrested for first-degree terroristic threatening. He was taken to the Hawaii Police Department's detention facility and remains in custody. The airport resumed operations at 6:50 a.m. TSA says grenades of any type, including replicas, are not allowed in either checked or carry-on luggage. Also in Hilo, police released these images showing a potential kidnapping at a shopping center on Kanoilehua Avenue. They say the victim, wearing a bright green t-shirt, was in a silver 2003 Honda Accord. 3 males in black clothing arrived in a Toyota Tundra, assaulted the victim, forced him into the truck, and took off. Investigators have been unable to generate any leads. Please call police if you can help. Meanwhile, a Volcano man is charged with over a dozen offenses after allegedly crashing into multiple vehicles in a stolen Jeep. Rodley Ford is accused in the series of crimes through Hilo on July 4th. One of the drivers suffered minor injuries. Ford allegedly fled from police the day before as well. Police caught him Thursday after a foot chase and say he had meth in the Jeep. Ford's due back in court on Wednesday. His bail is set at $296,000. Honolulu police are investigating another bank robbery. It happened in Kailua yesterday afternoon just before 4. Police say a man in his late 60s walked in and handed the bank teller a note demanding money. The teller handed over the cash and the suspect left. So far, no arrests have been made and police have not released any additional information on the suspect. President Biden is looking to turn the page on his debate performance with the kickoff of the NATO summit in Washington, D.C. But some are still questioning whether he should stay in the race or drop out. Meanwhile, former President Trump is close to naming his vice presidential candidate. Skylar Henry has the latest.
President Biden is hosting the NATO summit in Washington, D.C., and even the world leaders in town for the event are facing questions about the president's health.
Mr. Prime Minister, do you have any concerns about Biden's age or mental acuity?
Good to see everyone here this morning. Looking forward to a great meeting with this distinguished group of senators.
The president will try to shift focus away from his debate performance and back onto global concerns, such as the war in Ukraine.
As we have said, that Ukraine's future is in NATO.
Here at home, the president appears to have done enough to stop most members of his own party from calling for him to step aside and let another Democrat take over and take on former President Trump.
I think at this point it is, it's a foregone conclusion. The president's going to run and we're going to support him.
Former President Trump, who hasn't appeared in public since the day after the debate, told Fox News' Hannity that he too thinks Biden will stay in the race.
It looks to me like he may very well stay in. He's got an ego and he doesn't want to quit.
Trump is reportedly close to naming a running mate with North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, the apparent leading candidates. He will likely announce his pick before next week's Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Hunter Biden's attorneys have withdrawn their motion for a new trial in his gun case. The president's son had asked for a new trial last month, citing a lack of jurisdiction. In a filing in federal court in Delaware from today, Biden's team withdrew that motion. Hunter Biden was found guilty last month on 3 counts tied to possession of a gun while using narcotics. 2 of the counts carry maximum prison sentences of 10 years, while the third has a maximum of 5 years. Even after today's filing, Biden could still appeal his guilty verdict on different grounds.
In Ukraine, a cleanup operation is underway at the Children's Hospital of Keaau after a missile destroyed part of the building. Fred Platkin has more from the scene.
This is the exact impact site where that missile hit, and you can see that it's completely flattened part of that building, which is, of course, the largest children's hospital here in Ukraine and one of the largest in Europe, sustaining major damage. Behind me, it's evident to see that the floors here just completely got obliterated, and all that's left over is rubble right now. Now, the Ukrainians say that the death toll currently stands at 2, while dozens of people have been wounded in this attack. They say one of the fortunate things that happened is there was a missile alert, and the staff and the children that were being treated here actually got evacuated to a bomb shelter. The staff then immediately came out and started sifting through the rubble. Now all of this is currently a cleanup operation, but you can see just how powerful that blast must have been. This is one of the floors of that building, and here it's evident that it just flat packed down. Those are some of the supporting beams. And the Ukrainians say that there will be a response to this. The Russians claim this might have been a stray Ukrainian interceptor that hit the building. The Ukrainians having none of it, saying it was a Russian missile, saying this is an attack on Ukraine's healthcare system and also on Ukraine's children. And if we look over here, you can see this whole complex was damaged by it. That's another building here as well. And clearly the facade sustained major damage.
Back here on Oahu, a 25-year-old man is in custody after he allegedly threw bricks at cars. The Star-Advertiser reports just before 7 yesterday morning, he threw one at the driver's door window of a 45-year-old woman on Kamehameha Highway in Pearl City. She suffered minor injuries. Police sources tell the paper they received multiple calls about the man. He was arrested a short time after, and he's in custody pending charges. And a 32-year-old man was taken to the hospital with serious injuries after officials say he fell into a manhole. This happened at around 8:15 this morning near the Sand Island wastewater treatment plant. Honolulu EMS administered advanced life support. We're told the man suffered leg and back injuries. The country's high court says the government has the right to move homeless people off public areas, and it's a loss for the ACLU. Our Eddie Dowd says the civil liberties group isn't giving up.
City ordinance prohibits the obstruction of public sidewalks and sometimes prompts law enforcement action. A recent Supreme Court ruling is giving the okay to cities like Honolulu to continue enforcement. Maritas Mondehar runs Soho Fashion, one of several King Street businesses that deal with homeless people daily.
For many years that they've been there, it's really terrible.
You support the city?
Support, 100% support.
The city's sidewalk sweep started 10 years ago with laws passed under former Mayor Kirk Caldwell, who called it, quote, compassionate disruption. The ACLU has been fighting it ever since, backed by lower court rulings that called sweeps cruel and unusual punishment. But on Monday, the Civil Liberties Group dropped its latest lawsuit after the U.S. Supreme Court recently ruled that cities can ban people from sleeping and camping in public places.
It was disappointing and it was heartbreaking, given municipalities a mechanism to continue to criminalize poverty.
Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi, who has continued Caldwell's sidewalk campaign, said in a statement that he's, quote, extremely pleased with this outcome, and it completely strengthens our ability to enforce these laws and protect our residents and visitors. Along with homeless sweeps, the city has also spent millions of dollars on projects to provide shelter. Last year, it opened a homeless resource center in Iwilei, and this month plans to open a mental health facility outside Chinatown. Yet the number of unsheltered homeless people has steadily risen. When the sweeps began a decade ago, there was about 1,600 on Oahu. This past January, volunteers counted 2,400 people on the streets.
It has gotten worse over the years that I've been living here, and I've been here about 40 years now. I see both sides of the story.
I would only support it if there was a plan, a humane plan to place these people somewhere where they can live. Otherwise, you're just shuffling people around.
The ACLU says in 1 year, the city spent about $5 million on sweeps, amounting to an expensive cat and mouse chase that robs vulnerable people of the few possessions they have. Despite the recent ruling, the group says it still has valid legal arguments and is already planning new challenges.
Both in the legal side in state courts as well as the legislative side. The city does not have a blank check.
Eddie Dowd, Hawaii News Now.
State authorities are looking for who may be responsible for gouging a coral reef off Keaau Basin. DLNR says the recent damage appears to have been caused by an anchor being dragged across the ocean floor. Last week, divers took measurements and counted the number of corals harmed.
So today we did find 2 scars that looked like they were likely from an anchor drag. They're about 80 feet in length. And there were some damaged corals. So that ranged from corals that were broken off of the hard bottom, as well as some corals that were fragmented, so broken into pieces. There also was a little bit of scraping on some coral colonies that were still attached. And so we can tell that there was recent damage from basically a fresh white coloration of the coral skeleton being exposed from impact.
We're told 200 corals were found damaged and teams righted 74 of them. Officials say the site could take years to recover. Lawyers for the U.S. government say plaintiffs in the Red Hill fuel leak lawsuit are asking for too much money. Our Hilo Richardson has the arguments over how much victims should get paid for being exposed to the contaminated water.
After the fuel spill from the Navy's Red Hill fuel tanks tainted its water system in 2021, there was extensive flushing for months in multiple neighborhoods in and around Pearl Harbor. In its closing brief, the U.S. government now says, quote, contamination from the November 2021 spill did not reach the western portion of the Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam water system, such as Ford Island. Government lawyers also cited the speed at which jet fuel exits the body limits the duration of physical symptoms possibly caused by the spill.
How they have treated their own, this Ohana, is a disgrace. The harm these people have caused by their reckless disregard for the condition they knew about for 21 years is outrageous.
1, 2, 3, aloha!
17 bellwether plaintiffs are suing the U.S. government and are asking for $7 million in damages for health problems related to the fuel spill, such as rashes, headaches, seizures, stomach issues, balance problems, and memory loss. But court records show the government is only willing to pay about $115,000 total to the plaintiffs for stress and anxiety, saying, quote, plaintiffs failed to demonstrate that their physical injuries and impairment were caused by toxic exposure.
So you're saying it's very difficult to prove that families drank fuel?
It's impossible to prove without an expert that's going to say it happened because this caused that. This is a post-traumatic stress case.
Hawaii attorney Michael Green isn't part of this lawsuit, but has more than 100 clients who filed legal action against the government after the disaster. He says directly linking the fuel to people's longer-term injuries is tough.
It's almost impossible without an expert saying there's a connection between jet fuel in the water and a miscarriage or a deformed fetus or him trembling on the witness stand and for the rest of his life. Can't prove it.
Beforehand, I had no signs of these tremors at all.
18-year-old plaintiff Bo Jessup claimed he developed tremors after the spill and cannot join the Navy like his father. Attorneys are asking for nearly $500,000 for his pain, suffering, impairment, and therapy. But the government says he shouldn't get any money for his tremors and that he should only get $10,000 to $30,000 for pain and suffering, mental and emotional distress, loss of enjoyment, and disruption. The trial was non-jury, so it's up to federal judge Leslie Kobayashi to issue a ruling.
The plaintiffs and their lawyers aren't commenting and have until Friday to respond to the government's brief. It's not known when the judge will make a decision.
Mahealani Richardson, Hawaii News Now.
In Hilo, dredging has begun at the Wailoa Small Boat Harbor. Fishermen have pleaded with the county to get the $3 million project going, as sand buildup was preventing boats from getting in and out. At last check, the project was slated to finish by January. And Hawaiian Telecom recently made large investments to help expand its fiber network access across the state. It should mean faster and better service for all Hawaii customers. Casey Lunn is at a new Hawaiian Telecom facility in Halava that was built to help reach those goals.
Aloha from Hawaiian Telecom's new facility here in Halava. You can see behind me these sort of mock apartment units. That's where technicians will get a pretty hands-on experience setting up service inside somebody's home, from TV, internet, really all the services provided. And of course, this is all about investing in their employees and in their service as Hawaiian Telecom works to continue its fiber expansion throughout the state. We're going to talk a little bit more big picture in just a moment with the president of Hawaiian Telecom. First, Aaron Ladera is with us today. Thank you for being with us. I want you to kind of show us around this area too. We have a pole climbing area we'll talk about in a moment, but tell us a little bit about what this is going to mean for the folks that you train.
So what it means is that everybody gets proper training. We can repeat it over and over. Like what we have right behind me is the maintenance copper splicing booths, where the maintenance techs will take apart cases, learn to put things back together, and we can repeat this over and over again. Upstairs, we have a very similar situation going on with the copper as well as fiber, so we can shoot trouble, they can identify it.
In a moment, we're going to be talking with the President, Su Shin, but I want to talk a little bit about also your linemen, those folks. There's a facility, an area for that here as well. We have some video of some training that you folks had earlier. That takes a special kind of person. That's pretty demanding, physically demanding.
Oh, yes. It's very demanding, very physical. You use all the little muscles you never thought you had.
Yeah, well, thank you, Aaron Ladera, with us, training manager. Now we're going to take a quick walk over here and talk a little bit with Su Shin. She's the president for Hawaiian Telecom, and this is that pole area that we were talking about, Sue. Before we talk big picture here about fiber expansion and some goals that we're trying to get to, this was really an investment in your team members, included not just a facility, but some new fleet vehicles, right?
Absolutely. So this all represents a $15 million investment, this facility, new fleet vehicles, and it's really, again, an investment in our people, the employees that are working to expand fiber out there.
And it's like we said, demanding work, and often not done inside, a lot of times outside, in some challenging elements. Really quickly before we go, though, big picture wise, when you talk about that expansion, where are we at, as far as the state is concerned, and especially in some of our more rural neighbor island communities?
Yeah, absolutely. Broadband access today is so incredibly essential. And so this year, we are investing more on the neighbor islands than we are on Oahu. We're at about at the halfway point for statewide fiber expansion. On the island of Lanai, we're fully fiber enabled. Topside of Molokai, we're fully fiber enabled. And by the end of this year, the entire island of Kauai will be fiber enabled. So, we're incredibly proud of that, right, of that accomplishment. But really what we're proud of is our employees they have this genuine sense of pride, and they feel a sense of kuleana around the work that we're doing around, connecting and empowering Hawaii. So really proud of that.
Really quickly, timeline for the full state to be 100% fiber.
So we're aiming to be fully fiber enabled by 2027, which obviously is really aggressive. Yeah. But, with this incredible team, this great facility, we're going to get there.
So we get Su Shin with us, president of Hawaiian Telecom. If you'd like to learn more about the fiber expansion across the state or even employment opportunities, we have a link to do that at hawaiinewsnow.com. We'll send things back into the studio for now.
Thank you, Case. Let's take a live look outside over Pu'uwaina Punch Bowl there. Lots of sunshine today on this Aloha Tuesday. 83 degrees outside. Guy Hagi tells us that the winds are going to pick up, though, starting today through the rest of the week. He's going to have your full forecast after this quick break.
How's it on this Tuesday? The Central Pacific remains very quiet. East Pacific as well. No cyclones expected anytime soon. And the weather's going to be rather calm. It's going to be a beautiful day today. There's a little field of moisture that's passing by the state. So we have a few windward and Mauka showers this morning, but really not a whole lot of rain. Even drier conditions are due in by this afternoon. And these winds will run steady today. Let's call them 15 to 20 in the afternoon, getting even stronger by tomorrow, and they'll hold firm going through the weekend. So it's going to be a gorgeous, comfortable day today. A few showers to start for those windward areas. Lots of sunshine, drier conditions by lunchtime. The afternoon high temperatures running into the upper 80s, but those trade winds will help to keep us cool at 15 to 20 miles an hour. Not a whole lot of surf to speak of. It's going to be rather small for the next several days, but heads up. Late in the weekend, we've got a significant south swell heading in, so that could trigger high surf alerts. So we've got the winds today running about 15 to 20. Stronger trade winds, breezy levels coming in from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even into Saturday. We're not expecting a whole lot of rain, maybe a few more showers coming in on Friday, but even that's not going to be significant. And look at those temperatures, going to remain in the upper 80s for the next 7 days.
In today's news from the feeds, a Massachusetts man is able to speak again after receiving a rare total larynx transplant. He's one of the first cancer patients to have the treatment. Jared Hill has his story.
Marty Keaau is so grateful he's regained his voice.
I want people to know this can be done. And it's a process, but it's worth it.
Dozens of surgeries over a decade for a rare form of laryngeal cancer eventually robbed Keaau of his ability to speak, swallow, and breathe normally. His wife Gina found a clinical trial at the Mayo Clinic in Arizona. Dr. David Lott determined Marty was a good candidate, and surgeons removed his larynx and transplanted a donated one.
My patients tell me, yeah, I may be alive, but I'm not really living. And so to me, if you look at it from that perspective, being able to give that gift back to somebody, to me, that really is a vital organ.
6 surgeons performed the 21-hour transplant. Using new microsurgical techniques, they connected nerves critical for Marty to feel when he needs to swallow and move the vocal cords. Transplants usually aren't an option for people with active cancer, making Marty's case the first of its kind globally.
I think there's a fair number of patients that would benefit from this. It's important in this case and in all of medicine that we do trials so that we can establish the safety.
I can talk to my 82-year-old mother on the phone, and she could hear me.
The transplant took place in February. Marty still sounds hoarse, but he can have conversations, even Zooming with his young granddaughter.
I said, no matter what, Gina, I'm getting my voice back. I'm keeping my voice for her.
Marty's excited to return to his family in Massachusetts next week. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Vegetarians may soon have a new option at cookouts. South Korean researchers say they can create lab-grown meat that actually tastes like meat. Right now, this meat looks like this pink-colored disc, but scientists say it could offer the same nutrition without producing a carbon footprint. The meatless meat is developed by cultivating animal cells in a lab where they can multiply. Researchers say the cultured meat can generate the flavor of grilled beef as it's cooked or grilled. They add that it can allow non-carnivores to have burgers, steaks, and the like without guilt, and it benefits the environment.
Well, that was a good idea.
When a sheep got loose in Minnesota, police pulled out all the stops, but the animal would not stop running. It happened in the city of Zumbrota. Take a look as 2 officers were sent to deal with the animal, but to no avail. They cornered it in a fenced-in yard, but the woolly perpetrator simply charged through the fence. The police department says it showed 4 legs are better than 2, and the animal's wool is immune to tasers. It's not clear where the sheep came from.
Wow. Going back to that lab-grown meat, how do you feel about that?
No, just I mean, I get it. It's great for the environment.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't look all that great.
Yeah, it depends
at
what it
least
looks
in
like,
its
I
state.
guess.
Yeah. Hey, quick reminder, we've got Spotlight coming up, and that's happening at 1 o'clock right here from the Hawaii News Now Digital Center. Be sure to tune into that for all the important discussions of the day. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day.
Aloha.